testing. Thank you for all coming today to an unlikely story on this absolutely beautiful Tuesday. We will get started with our event with Nick momentarily, but first of all, I would like to give you some general information. Following the event, we will be releasing you by rows to join the signing line, to meet Nick and have your book signed. And what you're going to do is you're going to for the first 2 rows, and you'll go through there and around there. Children who are on the rug can join their parents at the line. When we're done, please remain seated until I get to your row. We will start at the front. Then line up along the balcony wall. Also, kids, please leave your name tag on so Nick will know how to sign your book. So don't take that off and rip it or anything. Today, we are very honored to welcome Nick Bruel, the author and illustrator of the best-selling Bad Kitty books. Nick is going to read the new Bad Kitty book, Bad Kitty Scaredy-Cat. So let's please give a warm welcome to Nick.
Thank you very much. Before I say anything else, I just have to say congratulations to all of you, because you are sitting in a bookstore, and a particularly nice one. And not everybody in this country can say that, because there are fewer and fewer of these great places around. So congratulations and well done to all of you for supporting this place. And thank you for having me. All right, so I want to keep it simple. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to read to you from this book. After that, I think I'm going to do a little drawing. After that, I think I'll take some questions, any questions anyone might have here, all right? We'll do that at the end. Before I read to you from this book, though, I should tell you why this book exists. This is the 4th Bad Kitty picture book. The first Bad Kitty picture book was, of course, Bad Kitty. If you don't know it, it's a pretty simple book. It's a story about a cat who doesn't get the food she wants in alphabetical order. So she creates the mayhem in alphabetical order. Then she gets the food she does want in alphabetical order, and then she kind of makes amends in alphabetical order. And when that book came out, it did pretty well. Kids liked it. My publisher liked it. And if you don't know what a publisher is, I'll describe it this way. All I do is write the words and paint the pictures. My publisher is the company that takes my words and takes my pictures and then turns it into books that they sell at stores and sell at libraries and places like that. My publisher met with me and they said, Nick Bruel, we like this Bad Kitty book. We think you should do another Bad Kitty book. And I said, I don't want to do another Bad Kitty book. And they said, how come you don't want to do another Bad Kitty book? And I said, because Bad Kitty goes through the alphabet 4 times. That's a lot of alphabets. It is not as easy as it sounds to find the right word for every letter of the alphabet, especially if you have to do it 4 times. So I said to them, I, Nick Bruel, will never do another Bad Kitty book again. And they said, go home and think about it. I said, all right, that's what I'll do. That's what I did. I went home, and something funny happened. My wife had a friend who was visiting, and my wife's friend had a little boy. He was only about 2 or 3 years old. This little guy would toddle about the house, and he'd sometimes trip, and he'd fall, and he'd get upset, and my wife's friend would pick him up, and she would console him by rocking back and forth with him in her arms and saying, poor puppy, poor puppy, poor puppy.
Oh, that's really
Well, that rang a little bell in my head and made me think, maybe I could do another book about Bad Kitty, but I wouldn't make it just about the cat. I would make it also about that dog living in that house with that cat. And I would have it go through the alphabet 3 more times. Well, the book came out. It was called Poor Puppy. And kids liked it, my publisher liked it, and they called me and they said, hey, Nick Bruel, we like this Bad Kitty book, we like this Poor Puppy book, we think you should do another Bad Kitty book. And I said, I don't want to do another Bad Kitty book. And they said, how come you don't want to do another Bad Kitty book? And I said, because Bad Kitty goes to the alphabet 4 times, Poor Puppy 3 times, that's 7 alphabets. I'm all out of alphabets. I, Nick Bruel, will never do another Bad Kitty book again. And they said, go home and think about it. So that's what I did. That's when I realized the problem wasn't with Kitty. The problem wasn't with Puppy.
The problem was those accursed alphabets. What if I made chapter books? Books for older kids that wouldn't have those alphabets at all. This way, I could still tell stories about Kitty and about Puppy, but I wouldn't have any alphabets to hold me back, and that's what we did. And the first one was Bad Kitty Gets Bad, and then Happy Birthday Bad Kitty, and Bad Kitty versus Uncle Murray, and so on and so forth. And kids liked them. My publisher liked them. They called me in, and they said to me, Nick, Bruel, we like these chapter books. We still want you to do another Bad Kitty picture book. And I said, blah, 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 alphabets. And they said, figure what they said. What did they say? Oh, right. Go home and think about it. So I went home and I thought about it. And I realized, you know what? I like Christmas. Christmas is kind of cool. Because on Christmas, I got presents. Not I got presents from family, I got presents from friends, I got presents from Santa Claus, and that is pretty fabulous. So I thought, you know what, maybe I'll do a book about Kitty and Christmas, and I would call it A Bad Kitty Christmas, and because I am my own worst enemy, I would have it go through the alphabet 5 times, and it would rhyme. It came out. It did pretty well. Kids liked it. My publisher liked it. They called me in again. And they said to me, hey, Nick Bruel, we're almost afraid to ask. We think you should still do another Bad Kitty picture book. And I said to them, there is no way in the world I will ever do another Bad Kitty picture book again. They said, how come you don't want to do it? I said, because 5 plus 4 plus 3 is 12. That's a lot of alphabets. I'm all done. No more alphabets. No more Bad Kitty picture books. And what do you think they said to me? That's exactly what they said to me. That's when I realized something. You know, I just said to you, I like Christmas, right? I like Christmas. But I love Halloween. Because I like presents, but I love candy. See, here's one of those things you're not going to hear from anybody else. It's one of those little secrets that adults never tell kids. But when you are a grown-up, and boy, this is something to look forward to. When you are all grown up, you can have candy anytime you want. You're going to have to wait. You're going to have to earn it. But once you're an adult, you can have a candy anytime you want. So I thought, why don't I do a book about my favorite holiday and Kitty together? And it turned out to be this one here, Bad Kitty Scaredy-Cat. And on the very first page of this book, you see Kitty taking a nap amidst the mayhem she has wrought on a daily basis in this house. But along comes Puppy when the story begins. She wasn't always a scaredy cat. Woof! She used to be an angry kitty, a brave kitty, a clumsy kitty, a daring kitty, an energetic kitty, a fearless kitty, a gallant kitty, a heroic kitty, blam, an inept kitty, a jumbled kitty, mew, a kittenish kitty, mew, a loopy kitty, honk, a muddled kitty, woof, a numb kitty, an outraged kitty, a powerful kitty, a quick kitty, a resolute kitty, a strong kitty, a tough kitty, an upended kitty, a vexed kitty, a wet kitty, an exasperated kitty, a youthful kitty, and a zestful kitty. Whoops. But then, one dark and foggy night, something terrible happened. Out of the darkness and into her doorway appeared the most horrible and frightening creatures Kitty had ever seen. She saw A, an awful alien. B, a bizarre Bigfoot. C, a creepy clown. D, a dreadful dragon. Evil ectoplasm. Frightful Frankenstein. A ghastly goblin. A hideous hag. An intimidating invisible man. A jarring jack-o'-lantern. A killer kraken. A loathsome lion. A monstrous mummy. A noisy Neanderthal, an odious ogre, a putrid pirate, a quirky Quasimodo, a rusty robot, a scary skeleton, a toxic tarantula, Uncle Murray. I ran out of candy, can I borrow some? A vile vampire, a wicked werewolf, an extremely exotic X-ray creature, a yucky yeti, and a zany zombie. That's how she became a scaredy cat. That's how she became just a very, very scared little kitty. Poor kitty. Poor kitty. But then, oops, I dropped my candy. That's when she saw it. She saw A, apples, B, bubblegum, C, candy corn, D, dried fruit, English toffee, fudge, gumdrops, hard candy, Italian truffles, jelly bean, kiwi fruit, lollipops, marshmallows, necklaces, oranges, pretzels, quince candy, raisins, strawberry, licorice, taffy, unsalted nuts, vanilla cookies, white chocolate, wax lips, yellow bananas, and zoo animal crackers. Kitty decided there and then that she would not be a scared little kitty anymore. She decided she would be a bad kitty. But not just any bad kitty. She would be a very, very bad kitty. She, A, attacked the alien. B, battered Bigfoot. C, clobbered the clown. Demolished the dragon, eradicated the ectoplasm, flattened Frankenstein, gnawed on the goblin, harassed the hag, injured the invisible man, jostled the jack-o'-lantern, kicked the kraken, lambasted the lion, mauled the mummy, nullified the Neanderthal, overturned the ogre, pinched the pirate, quashed the Quasimodo, ruined the robot, smashed the skeleton, tackled the tarantula, upset Uncle Murray, vanquished the vampire, whacked the werewolf, extinguished the X-ray creature, yanked the yeti, and zinged the zombie. Hooray for Kitty! All by herself, Kitty managed to chase those horrible creatures back out into the night. Kitty decided there and then that she would never be a scaredy cat again. Woof! Never. The end. I thought I'd do some drawing. But just to kind of make it worth your while, I don't want to be the guy who comes in here and gets this big, beautiful sheet of paper, gets a big, lovely black marker, and then says to you, all right, kids, this is how you draw a bad kitty. So I'd make it a little more interesting. I will draw a bad kitty. But I thought I'd show you while I'm doing that the hardest part. The biggest challenge I face each and every single time when I have to draw this character. And that is giving her feelings. Emotions. Because feelings and emotions are really, really important in stories. Every character in every story that you've ever read, you're ever going to read, they all need feelings and emotions to seem real. But I've got a problem. It's kind of a big problem. My problem is that I created a character who
who does not talk. Kitty doesn't talk. So because she doesn't talk, she can't just tell you what she's thinking. She can't just tell you what she's feeling. The only way to know what Kitty is thinking or what she's feeling is by seeing the expressions on her face. That's the hard part. I'm going to show you how I do that. So before I do that, of course, I have to draw Kitty herself. So when I draw Kitty, I always start in the middle of her face with that part of the body we call the elbow. Wait, who said nose? You're right, I'm sorry. Now right below the nose, I draw her mouth. Right above her nose, however, I draw these two circles which are going to be her pancreas. Wait, who said eyes? You're right, I'm sorry, my apologies. I'm not paying attention. All right, so now above her eyes, I draw these four hairy, there's always four. That's sort of her hair. And my research shows that all cats have 2 ears. So I always give her 2 ears. And she's got these whiskery deals on the side. The middle whisker is always a little bigger than the other 2. And his neck, skinny neck, shoulders, and tuft of white hair. And there's Kitty. Hi, Kitty. But I'm not done yet. Because you see, I call this blank face Kitty. Because she doesn't really have an expression yet, right? I mean, you cannot look at that face and know for sure what she's thinking. You cannot look at that face and know for sure what she is feeling. That is about to change. Because with a single stroke of this marker, I am going to turn this blank face Kitty, I'm going to turn this expressionless Kitty into annoyed Kitty. It's going to happen very quickly, so pay attention. Here we go. No expression. Annoyed. In case you missed it the first time, no expression. Annoyed. No expression. Annoyed. I like to say that's how you turn a marker into a magic marker. Now I'm going to just to further illustrate this point, I'm going to do, and literally, I'm going to do this 3 more times. At the same time, I'm not going to draw the whole head with the whiskers and the ears, the elbows, pancreas, gallbladder, all that. I'm just going to draw the important parts of her face. But I'm going to make her eyes, I think, a little bit bigger. And I'm going to do this 3 times. How's that back of my head looking this afternoon? That was a rhetorical question, but I appreciate the good words. Now, I've got 3 kitty faces here. Pretty much the same. Pretty much identical, but obviously something is missing. By the time I'm done, this first one is going to be surprised Kitty. Okay. This next one is going to be crazy Kitty. And this last one is going to be adorable Kitty. Right, thank you. First things first, surprise Kitty. 1, 2. It's easy, right? 2 dots. But check it out. 2 little dots, and look at how much more alive that face is compared to the other 2. All right, next, crazy Kitty. 1, 2. It's not so hard, right? Last but not least, adorable Kitty. 1, 2. I had 3 kitty faces. They used to be the same. They used to be identical. But by the time I was done, the only difference between surprised, crazy, and adorable was where I put the dots for her eyes and how big I made them. These little details, these details that make such a big, profound difference, took a lot of time and a lot of practice for me to learn. Still, to this day, remains the hardest part of my job when I have to draw this character. We still have time. Raise your hand if you have a question that you would like to ask me. My first question is, whatever happened to the pen tag? Does anybody have that marker candy in front of them? Yes? Oh, can you pass that off? I don't want it to dry out. Lovely marker. Thank you. All right, your hand went up very quickly. What's your question there? The kitty, it's not a question, but a very good observation. Yes, the kitty has her eyes in different spots. But you see that? There they are sort of like in the middle together. But when they look apart, then she looks crazy. Now let's try something else. Let's say I want Kitty to look in that direction. Then I have both eyes looking on that side like that. So I want her to look over there. What's going on over there, Kitty? She's looking that way. Both dots are in that direction. If I want her to look this way, I put both dots here. If I want her to look up, I put both dots at the top, down, both dots at the bottom. Where you put those tiny little dots makes a really big difference in what you have, in terms of what you're having Kitty do. What's your question? Why did I even start that Kitty in the first place? That's an excellent question. I will tell you the answer. About 15 years ago, I was sitting at my desk, and this big blank sheet of paper in front of me, and this pen in my hand. And I was trying to come up with story ideas. But rather than just sit there and write a story, because it's not always easy to do it that way. So, I personally, my brain, I have a lot of trouble sitting down and starting a story by writing the words, once upon a time, fill in the blank. That's a really hard exercise. Instead of doing that, I thought I was just going to think of titles. Titles I've never seen before. Titles that I didn't think even existed. Because titles are easy. Titles can be just one, maybe two words. And that's what I did. I just started writing the titles down on this piece of paper as it came to me. And title after title after title. And after a while, I wrote down some titles that I kind of liked. And after a while, I wrote some titles that I kind of didn't like. But then I wrote down this one title that I really liked, and that title was... I loved that title. That's when I started asking myself questions. First question I had to ask myself was, okay, if I've got a title to a story called Bad Kitty, what's my story going to be about?
Bad Kitty.
Yeah, that was not it. That was easy enough, so I moved on. I then asked myself that important question, if I have a story called Bad Kitty about a kitty doing something bad, what does she do? That's so bad. That's when I came up with so many ideas. I thought it would be interesting to put them into alphabetical order. That is how the very first Bad Kitty book took shape. Arguably, that is how this entire Bad Kitty empire was born. Just from my sitting there and contemplating those two simple words, Bad Kitty. Ask a question. In the front row there, what's your question for me?
What is your favorite Bad Kitty book that you wrote?
What is my favorite Bad Kitty book that I have written? That's a terrific question. You're not the first person ever to ask that question, you can imagine. But here, the reason I mentioned it is unfortunately, I do not, after all this time, have a very satisfying answer. Because I don't have a favorite Bad Kitty book. I can at least tell you why I don't, right? The reason I don't have a favorite Bad Kitty book is I sort of think of the question as being a lot like what would happen if you went up to somebody who had lots and lots of kids, and you asked that person, of all your children, which one is your favorite child? They would say to you, I don't have a favorite child. They are all special and unique to me for different reasons. They come to me with special and unique joys, special and unique challenges, and that is kind of how I feel about my books. I will say, however, this is breaking news here. Of all the Bad Kitty books I've done so far, and I'm numbering around 15, 16. No, I think it's actually 19 with the early readers. I think the most important one is the one that's coming out in January. So it doesn't do you a lot of good now, but in a few months it might. That one's going to be called Bad Kitty Takes the Test. Raise your hand if you go to a public school. Just about everyone. I visit lots of schools in lots of different states. I've been to school, I was in schools today earlier. I've been to schools in New York, where I'm from, schools in Florida, Texas, California, Washington, Oregon, and everything in between. I've been to about 3/4 of the states in this country. And I can report that every kid in every public school in every state in this country all face the same problem. You all are getting tested like nuts. You get these standardized tests that just take up amazing amounts of time, and not only do I think this is kind of silly, I think it's kind of counterproductive, because imagine what you could accomplish instead of taking those tests. So I thought it's high time for Bad Kitty to enter into this debate and give her opinion on it. And that book comes out in January, and that's why I think of all the Bad Kitty books, that one may be the most important of all the Bad Kitty books. On the aisle with the blue shirt, what's your question?
Where did you come up with Uncle Murray?
Oh, nice. You know, I turned 50 this year. I'm in a state of slow decay, so I can't hear. You're gonna have to be nice and loud for me, young lady.
Where did you come up with Uncle Murray?
Do I have a cat? Is that the question? Yes. If you asked me that question about a year and a half ago, I would say to you, yes, I have a cat.
What's its name?
But now I have 2 cats. And a dog. And now one of them has appeared in a few of the books. That's Esme. She's the older cat. She's the one who she's in the appendix of Bad Kitty Gets a Bath, for instance. And she's a sweet cat, but she's kind of a feral thing. And I haven't come up with a good enough story idea to involve these 3 animals. But I do think about them a lot, because watching them interact is interesting. See, the older cat wants to eat the new cat.
Seriously?
The new cat is too much of a dope to realize that the old cat is always trying to eat her. And because what happens is the new cat, you know, she gets chased and get yelled at by the older cat, but she can't help herself. She keeps wandering into the little enclosed bathroom where I keep the older cat's litter box and food bowl. She just keeps wandering in there. That is like knocking on the door and walking into Castle Dracula, knowing that it's infested with vampires. The dog is above it all. The dog could not care less. Esme, the older cat, hates the dog. The dog doesn't even pay her a moment of attention. Watching the dog and the new cat, that's interesting. Because about once every 2 days, the dog and the new cat run into each other, and they want to play. You can see it. They sincerely want to play. The only problem is they can't agree on what game to play, because the dog wants to play his favorite game, which is bitey wrestle. So he sees the cat bitey wrestle. The cat goes, whoa, what is that? No. The cat, see, she wants to play her favorite game, which is swatty. She tries that. The dog goes, no, come on, my eyes, no. So once every 2 days, they run into each other, and it's bitey wrestle, swatty, whoa, what, no, cut it out, no, and they kind of go their separate ways. They keep trying. You know, man, I'm impressed. All right, if you can be nice and loud in the green shirt, nice and loud for me. What's your question?
Is the younger, Puppy's like the younger cat, the new cat, and Kitty's like the older cat?
A little bit like that, yes. Puppy is definitely much more like the younger cat, but even more playful. You know, and really, Puppy's a really important character in these books. Okay. The only character other than Kitty to appear in every Bad Kitty book is Puppy. And to explain why that is, I have to give away a little secret about Kitty herself, if you're ready for it. Get ready to have your mind. When I'm writing these Bad Kitty stories, I don't think of Kitty as being just a cat. I think of her as being kind of like a little kid who happens to be shaped like a cat. Because you know what? As much as I love them, cats are not my target audience for this book. Kids are. Cats don't really write on the walls or go to school or run for president. But kids certainly do go to school, often write on the walls, and grow up to run for president. So, to think of the relationship between Kitty and Puppy, you have to think of them this way. Kitty, Puppy. Big sister, little brother. You have these 2 creatures that live under the same roof. They don't necessarily have to get along, but they do have to find a way to peacefully cohabitate, as challenging as that may be. Dark blue t-shirt right there. What's your question for? Okay, what inspired me to make all of Kitty's friends? They first appeared in the second Bad Kitty chapter book, which is Happy Birthday, Bad Kitty. And I always say that characters are based on need. So, for instance, in Bad Kitty School Days, she's going to school, so I needed to create a teacher character, as well as other students. And in Bad Kitty, Happy Birthday, Bad Kitty, she's going to have a birthday party, so I needed to create new characters, because you can't have a birthday party all by yourself. Back in those days, when I was visiting schools and classrooms, I started thinking about the kids. Remember I was just saying about the kitties kind of based a little bit more on a kid? I actually started thinking about the kids I would see inside the classrooms. And every classroom has a kid who's bigger than all the rest, and that kid would inspire big kid. A lot of classrooms have twins. They would inspire the twin kitties. My daughter's best friend is. Especially in kindergarten, in first grade, there's always a little girl who comes to school with just a big puffy dress and sparkles and angles and glows in the dark, and she would inspire, of course, a creative kitty. And then there's Strange Kitty. And Strange Kitty was me. Because I was the kitty who would bring a big stack of comic books to a birthday party just in case whatever was going on. I just had no interest in them, so I could sit in the corner and read comic books and be perfectly content. What's your question there? How did I come up with Bad Kitty Puppy's Big Day? Wait, is this the question you asked me earlier today that you thought you'd ask it again because it leads to a long... You just don't want to go home because you know it leads to a long, rambling answer, right? Okay. Here's the story behind Bad Kitty Puppy's Big Day. The idea was first born by a very large, very powerful corporate entity known as the Scholastic Book Fair. Perhaps you've heard of it. Well, about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe no, actually longer, it's probably like 6, 7, 8 years ago, the good people at the Scholastic Book Fair were having a meeting at their corporate offices down in Florida. And the topic of the meeting were the best-selling titles that the Scholastic Book Fair had that year, or I should say the best-selling series book they had that year. Turns out the best-selling series they had that year was Diary of a Wimpy Kid. However, coming in second was the Bad Kitty series. That was when the man who's in charge of the Scholastic Book said out loud for everyone in the room to hear, hey, you know what Nick Bruel should do? He should make a book called Diary of a Wimpy Puppy. And then he laughed, and he laughed, and it was, and everybody in that room was kind of looking at each other and said, well, we gotta go tell Nick Bruel this right away, because, you know, the guy's in charge of the Scholastic Book Fair. He thinks he should make a book called Diary of a Wimpy Puppy. So, okay. I heard about this. You remember, I like that because, you know, I start with the title more often than not. So I thought, okay, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to think about this title, see what I can come up with. Now, it just so happened that the most recent book to have come out at that point was Bad Kitty versus Uncle Murray. And if you've read that book, you know there's a moment near the end. It's kind of a hole in the plot where Murray grabs a dog and leaves the house, but I never explain what those two characters do after they've left the house. It really is kind of an absence in the story. So I thought maybe I could tell a story about what happens to them when they leave the house. I liked the ideas I came up with. It wasn't the right time for me to tell that story because I was in the middle of finishing up Bad Kitty Meets the Baby and Bad Kitty for President. It was kind of time sensitive, but eventually the time arose for me to make that book, Bad Kitty Puppy's Big Day. I'm going to tell one more story. This is the story behind Uncle Murray. And I'm going to tell that story because it's actually, it won't make sense what I'm about to say, but it's actually appropriate to the season. Uncle Murray is based on my real Uncle Murray. See, now, when I was a kid your age, I had my Uncle Murray, and I depict him just as I remember him. He's kind of big and doughy and bald, and I visit him at home, so he's always walking around with a stained t-shirt and pajama pants. I love my Uncle Murray, because my Uncle Murray used to tell me all sorts of stories that were probably inappropriate for my age, about his friends who were a famous Hollywood comedy team called Abbott and Costello. And that's kind of the reason I bring it up now, because most of you big kids know who Abbott and Costello are. A lot of you younger folks, especially the ones here in the orchestra seats, probably don't. So this is everyone's assignment. We're getting really close to my favorite holiday, Halloween. So somewhere, either on Turner Classic Movies or streaming, is going to be an amazing film called Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. If you like funny movies, you're going to love this movie. If you like scary movies, you're going to love this movie. And when you're watching this movie, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, you can point to the screen and you can say, hey, those two guys used to play poker every Thursday night with a real-life Uncle Murray. Thank you all very much. What a great store you are sitting in right now. Thank you.